Good afternoon, it's Alan Murabayashi and Sarah Jacobs. It is April 4th and you are watching I Love Photography. For those of you listening to the audio podcast, you can also watch the video version of this at youtube.com/photoshelter. And if you have comments or questions along the way, use the hashtag I Love Photo. Good afternoon, Sarah Jacobs.
Hi, good afternoon, Alan.
Welcome back.
Thank you, thank you.
You know, we had Andrew Fingerman, the CEO, on the show last week, and that guy is a chatty Cathy, as we like to call him.
I watched it. It was great.
I'm just teasing. I thought he did a great job. And you know what? I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks, so maybe we'll just have to have him back in a couple weeks.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, as you know, this week was the first week of April, which means April Fools, everyone's favorite holiday. It's not really a holiday.
No.
It's not. What is it? It's just a day.
Yeah, the internet's busiest day, pulling pranks. Generally, but this year I was really disappointed.
A little slim. You know, the eyeglass company, online eyeglass company, Warby Parker, who you know I'm a huge fan of, owning like 1 billion pairs of their glasses. I think it was 4 years ago or so. They did Warby Parker glasses for dogs.
I remember that.
Yeah, but I don't think they've done anything so clever since. And you know what? We really didn't see a whole lot of great photo-related ones.
No.
But here's one.
Here's one that I totally fell for.
I fell for it too.
Ah, man, I completely fell for this because I saw it exactly right on April 1st, didn't check back on the link later that day. I just saw it first thing in the morning, thought, oh my God, we got to talk about this on Friday. I'll revisit it. Revisited it today, and I was like, I was completely fooled.
So this is the Canon EOS 1 smartphone powered by Android and sprinkled with fairy dust, and it's like... It's supposed to be Canon's foray into smartphone territory. And you know what? If this was an actual smartphone, I might get it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, what fooled me about this was, I mean, you and I had just talked about a few weeks ago, the senior executives over at Canon had said, you know, we're really not intimidated by the smartphone market. You know, we're not scared that we're going to lose sales to that. And so I thought, oh, well, this is why they aren't scared, because they're creating their own smartphone.
Well, that's exactly what I thought when I saw the post.
Right.
Well,
I was
they
like,
got us.
They got us. Ah, dang it, Canon.
Well, I hope to see some more inspired April Fool's jokes. But you know, April Fool's is kind of like everybody knows it's coming, so it's hard to fool people. But then, you know, when you do fool them with something like this, all they think is like, oh, I wish they actually had that.
Right.
So it's not really that much of a joke.
That's true. That's true. Now everyone's like, oh man, Canon, come on, make one.
Yeah, make one, Canon. Over at the New York Times, using their, I guess what everyone is calling the snowfall format, which is this responsive full-frame design that kind of infinite scrolls, vertically scrolls, a new feature called Veiled Truths.
Yeah, this is by an Iranian documentary photographer, Hassan Fatimi, and he took portraits. It seems like this is kind of his first attempt to really do like a professional portrait series. So I'm not like super blown away by all of these, but I think the ones with the prints, the veils covering the women's faces with prints on it, I think that creates a more visually dynamic image rather than just the blank ones. But I thought this was a really thoughtful and beautiful series about Iranian women wearing hijabs.
So he's hung a veil in front of the subject, the portrait subject. It doesn't look like he's actually done any double exposure because,
right.
Or I could be wrong, maybe he's mixing and matching a little bit.
No, it looks to me that he's just hung it.
Yeah. It's kind of a neat effect, but I think I would agree with you that some of the portraits aren't like super inspired in terms of the posing and the expressions.
Yeah.
But the effect is cool.
Yeah, that was my. I mean, I wasn't overwhelmed by it, but I I thought it was a nice series.
Who was that? Maybe it was an Indian photographer. Maybe I'm just saying that because they were sort of Indian scenes. The guy had very elaborate sets, and they were posed. And for whatever reason, this sort of like there's a sort of garish and Rococo-esqueness to these photos that I like that remind me of this other series.
Are you're thinking of like layered prints, like
I care. I think we might have covered it in a former happy hour. Or something.
The motorcycle gangs, the women motorcycle.
There's
gangs.
that too.
Oh, okay.
Which is also a good comparison. I think there's some similarities there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, these I give them kudos for coming up with a concept and executing a concept.
Yeah.
So much about photography, at least from a professional standpoint, is finding that right inspiration, but then also putting together a body of work and working at it enough that it is a corpus of work. It's not just like a one-off or 5 photos and I call it a day. Like he actually worked this and did it in sort of a tough country to do that in. Mm-hmm. Like you can't just approach women on the street and be like, hey, I want to take your photo. Like that's weird in any country, but especially in an Islamic country.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. The American Society of Magazine Editors recently published some of their awards, I guess.
Yeah, the nominees for their National Magazine Awards. Yeah. Yeah, this is an award ceremony that's been going on since 1966. So it's prestigious, and if you win it, it's a big deal. It's hosted by the American Society of Magazine Editors and along with Columbia University. I always want to know which magazines are, being noted for their photography. And the nominees for the feature photography, the photo essays this year, I think are really fun. They've got some really great ones. And Alan, I don't know if you pulled up any of them.
I haven't.
Okay. Well.
But go to our website and we'll have all the links and you can pull them up.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, wait. You have Fader Chicago up there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right.
You got it.
Oh, I got it. Here we go. What am I talking about?
So let's dive into some of these. So the Fader is nominated for Daniel Shea's look at youth violence in Chicago. And, I think that this is the clear winner, or who should win. We haven't looked at the others, but just hear me out. Because the Fader, the Fader is a music and a streetwear magazine. So, for them to be supporting Daniel Shea, who's kind of this fine art / documentary photographer, to go out and shoot the very neighborhoods that kind of like inspire and create the music that they write about, but make him document sort of this, this darker side to it, I think is really powerful. And the relationship between the magazine's content and then running a photo series like this, I feel like this is the most important of the nominees.
And the gang violence, I was watching Vice on HBO. The gang violence in Chicago is like completely out of control. The murder rates just, in the areas of Chicago where the gangs operate, the murder rates are like sky high. It's kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's a very interesting, as you said, a very interesting choice of topic and location that's kind of salient to the magazine's readership.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Here's Elle Magazine, or Elle Fanning, rather.
Yeah, Elle Fanning for New York. For New York
Magazine.
Yeah, this one is just beautiful and fun. Totally different than, the Chicago violence piece in the Fader, but this one I love. The nine-year-old version of Sarah is like drooling all over this. It's just Ellie Fanning decked out in these clothes that are made of food or just inspired by dessert. It's really gorgeous. I don't know if you can bring it up.
She's Dakota's sister, right?
Yeah, she is. She's Dakota's younger little sister, Dakota Fanning. Yeah.
We've seen a lot of like sprinkles as makeup, but I like this one.
Yeah. Wait, bring it up.
Oh yeah, I forgot that I'm not sharing it with you.
Share it.
This whole webcast thing is very difficult. Well, here we go. Here's a photo of Elle Fanning. She's eating an ice cream cone that has blue sprinkles on it, and then she also has blue sprinkles in her eyeshadow. I guess we call it eyeshadow.
Yeah. Yes, we call it eyeshadow. Yep.
And there's a lot of like cake decoration-esque elements that are very cool. This is cute. Definitely.
Yeah, it's super cute. I feel like though that this needs to win for like a food styling award, not necessarily photography.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Deep Fried America on a Stick.
Another food-related one.
With Magnum photographer Bruce Gilden.
Yeah, Bruce Gilden went to the state fair in Wisconsin? Yes. And took photographs, portraits, really close-up photos of just attendees. And the whole pull to this state fair is all of the fried foods, which being from Texas, I get it. You want to go to the fair and you want to eat a fried Oreo. Like, that's just what you want to do. But Bruce took these incredible, just up too close into the face of these attendees.
Eyes are like crazy.
Yeah, the eyes are definitely.
Eye detail is crazy, and then also just seeing this weathered skin is just—it's like leather. These people have been in the sun a lot.
Yeah, they have, and eaten a lot of fried foods. Yeah.
And you know what strikes me as well with a lot of these is, whether there's any truth to this. A lot of people say beauty is all about symmetry of the face.
Mm-hmm.
And these are not symmetrical faces at all.
No, they're not. And in the interview, his wife asks him, she says, what characteristics attract you to a face? And, it's interesting because these faces are not traditionally beautiful at all. And he says, to me, there's beauty everywhere, but I'm very particular. There's a certain detail that I find interesting visually, and the strength of the picture is in the detail. So there you go. Definitely not symmetrical faces.
Let me ask you, though. We talk a lot about, veracity in photography, etc., and how it's sort of inescapable when you're a photographer. There's no veracity because you get to choose who you're taking a photo of. So my question is this. He's got some very, very interesting characters who, if you said, I'm going to go to the state fair and shoot photographs of people eating fried Oreo donuts or whatever they're eating there, that this is kind of what you would expect. So I'm wondering if this is truly representative of the people at the fairs where he was going, or whether this is just like, this is Bruce Gilden and I'm finding the most interesting faces that I can find.
I think it's, I think it's Bruce Gilden finding what he thinks is the most interesting thing that he wants to photograph.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, no, I don't think you should look at this series and go, okay, that's everybody that went to the fair. They all look like that. Because they don't. This is the beauty that Bruce finds when he goes to the fair. Totally bizarre.
These are definitely worth looking at. I really enjoy these. And then Thomas van Hoetrieve.
Yeah, his drone essay that is just coming out in Harper's called Blue Sky Days. Now, we talk a lot about drone photography, and we're always careful to call it quadcopters, because they don't want it to be associated with drones. But this is a case where you absolutely have to refer to it as a drone because
it's literally drones. They're literally like spying on people.
Right, exactly. Thomas, yeah, exactly. And he created this series of work, going over scenes that the U.S. government will usually attack. So gatherings, like exercising groups, weddings, funerals, or even groups of people praying. So they're very haunting and stark, black and white. And I actually saw Harper's art director, Stacy Clarkson speak last week, and this was the very first thing she brought up, and she was so excited about this series that's about to run in the April edition. And I was like, I can't believe I haven't seen this yet. I mean, we talk so much about quadcopters and drones and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the longest photo essay ever published in Harper's Magazine, which is saying something about, I guess, the perception of this problem of privacy. I mean, there's obviously been a ton of things that could have been covered, from civil rights to 9/11 to everything in between, Obamacare, etc. But this was the topic that the editors thought merited the longest photo essay ever.
Yeah.
Kind of telling.
Yeah, it definitely is. And this work is also showing in New York starting today, actually, at surveillance.01 USA. I'm blanking on where it's showing, but we'll have the link up for you.
Surveillance 01.
That's the name of the show.
This next series was on Vice. Vice is such an interesting media property, first of all. The stuff that they cover, and then they have the TV show on HBO, which is, the first episode they followed Dennis Rodman to North Korea.
Right.
And then they had the gang. They did the thing about gangs, and it's just so interesting. And the last one I saw was about basically slave labor in India for brick making, where people become like indentured servants and whatnot. This particular essay, though, is Lucas Foglia's look at the mining boom that is transforming the American West. So the guy took 60,000 photos and edited them down to 60.
It's incredible.
And look at this shot, man.
That's an amazing picture.
This is presumably he's a miner of some sort, standing on what looks to be about a 9-foot fence pole, balanced on one leg with a shotgun or a rifle in his arm. And the light is just like perfect.
Yeah.
So he has a book coming out, but you have to see these photos. They're just they're like amazing time slices, and it makes you sort of appreciate not only the level of photography, but also the level of editing skill that the guy has, or the editor that he's working with. They're beautiful. I guess he's going to have a gallery show as well. I mean, I can see one of these guys like huge, printed up on the wall, and I just bet they're stunning. I don't know. I love them, Sergey. That's all I'm saying. I love these photos.
Good. I love them too.
It kind of reminds me, I took a trip many years ago where I drove to all 48 contiguous states, and I started that trip by saying, I'm going to take my camera and I'm going to try to document the United States, the continuous United States. And, went out there, tried to go out every day, every new town that I went to, tried to take photos. It's difficult, man.
Really,
just to motivate you.
How many states did you get into where you were like, oh man, this is too hard?
I think I got into like 3 where I was like, whoa, this is hard. Because, part of it too, it was a time, like 15 years ago, or maybe not that long ago. Maybe 10 years ago, where I said, you know what, I'm going to try to become a professional photographer. And one of the things that I wanted to overcome was this fear of approaching people and to say, hey, can I take your portrait?
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, it's huge, right? So I went up, and I remember going to Maine, and I remember going to various places, and I would meet people, and I tried to strike up a conversation, and I'd ask them if it's okay to take photos and whatnot. And you know what? People, for the most part, are very gracious. I think it would probably be a little bit different today, just because everybody's got a photo and everyone's sort of skeptical about how the photo will be used, etc. But back then it was sort of like, oh, what is this, a digital camera? And then you could show them what you were doing, and I would email them photos and whatnot. But it's really hard to sustain that level of photographic productivity. And then I can't imagine taking 60,000 and then trying to edit through them, man. My computer is too old. I can't even go through photos that fast.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. There was a somewhat controversial. It's one of these things, you call it controversy, but it's probably 6 likes for every unlike. A Audi promotional video with the photojournalist Lindsay Dario, who went to all kinds of crazy places in the Middle East, including Libya, where she was captured. And I guess part of the dealio was that she was released, but her driver was killed. And so therein lies the controversy for some people, that she is pimping Audi as a car brand and getting paid for it, ostensibly, while not acknowledging the fact that she wasn't, she's portrayed as being this very tough person, which she is.
Yeah.
But then she's being criticized for commercializing her job because her driver was killed.
Right, and it's for a car commercial.
And it's for a car. Exactly, it's for a car commercial, yeah.
Yeah.
So, here's the deal. This is my personal opinion. I'm very interested to hear yours. If you are a war photographer and you're putting your life on the line, as any sort of like first line, what do we call them? First line defenders or whatever, like a cop or a policeman, running into a fire or whatnot. You're not getting paid a whole ton. You need some outlets. You want to bring more eyeballs to your work. You do a little promo thing. You talk about your work. You talk about a tough condition. Yeah, it's for a car company, but I don't have a problem with this. It's freaking America,
Okay, so you think it's fine that she did the commercial?
I can see the controversy where the driver died and it's a car commercial, but like...
Yeah, and he died, he died in 2011, right?
Yeah.
So this was, yeah. So
it's not like yesterday.
Right, yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it's cool that Audi is supporting artists like this, so it's, the people that, photojournalists, they're the ones that are photographing in the front lines, like their brains just work a different way, I think. They see death every day, and it's like I think she did the right thing by doing the commercial. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, there's got to be some moral statute of limitations, like 3 years, that says, okay, now you can make a car commercial. And I also think, just because you're doing documentary work doesn't preclude you from doing commercial things. And everybody knows, like a lot of these hardcore documentary guys, like with Magnum and Geo and blah, 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 they all do commercial work. But now, so the criticism is that she's in front of the camera and she's the subject. She's the brand now. And I guess some people have a problem with that. We don't have a problem with it.
No.
Lindsay, keep doing what you're doing, man. You're doing a great job.
Yeah. You're a hero.
Yeah, you're a hero to us.
Yeah.
Speaking of other types of heroes, people love athletes. Our friend Brad Manchin photographs the San Francisco Giants. He loves baseball. He's not a guy who photographs just because he got the gig. He loves baseball. The guy knows, he's like an encyclopedia of baseball, and he's been shooting the Giants forever. He's not the official team photographer. That's Andy Cuno, but Brad's at every home game, and he works like the World Series, etc. So the San Francisco Giants approached Brad and said, hey, we have this idea for these banners that we want to hang around the ballpark. He said, okay, great. Now, Brad, this isn't a pitch for PhotoShelter, but we're going to talk about PhotoShelter anyway. Brad uses the trusted client feature in PhotoShelter. So for people at Sports Illustrated and Major League Baseball and the Giants, he just lets them log in and download whatever they want. There's a log of all of that stuff, and then they can come back and say, hey, we want to license these photos. And the reason why he does that is because it reduces the friction in the sale. It's not like, okay, let me throw together a gallery of images for you to peruse. It's like they can peruse his entire archive. And so they go through, they find these images, they come up with this new concept of giant together, and these banners are like ginormous.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They kind of resemble old baseball cards, which I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally, and I think that's definitely the look they were going for. And they, I don't know, man. It's just it shows you what great photography combined with great design can give you.
Totally.
And obviously, being huge is always awesome.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think the that element of being sort of baseball cardy has a really nice sense of synergy for this particular series of images and for this particular marketing effort. I dig it. I dig it.
You dig it.
NPR, I'm a jazz fan. I play jazz piano. I studied music in school. NPR came up with photos. So Chuck Stewart, I guess, was this photographer hired by a lot of record companies, and back in the day, they would just kind of say, "Hey, come on down, take some photos." And his son, I'm gonna read this. Recently, his son David was browsing through his archives when he found 6 undeveloped rolls of film from December 1964. Now, we've said it before, but I love found photos, man.
Yeah, you do. That's your jam.
It's like you find a roll, and it's not like digital. It's not like, of course, if you've downloaded the digital, you've seen at least the thumbnail.
Right. Yeah.
But when you find a roll of film, you have no idea what's on that thing.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that they were photos of jazz saxophone great John Coltrane at a recording session, and the photos are just lovely. First of all, there's just like this wonderful shallow depth of field. The bokeh, the out of focus elements look marvelous. They're like black and white, but it looks like maybe they toned them a little bit or something. Like it's not like pure black and white to my eye, but that might just be the computer monitor. And it's just really, it's magnificent to see these pieces of history that haven't been seen since 1964 or have never been seen, and they've been sitting on a roll of film for 50 years.
When are we going to find all the film, all the undeveloped film? When is it going to be over?
That's a good question. I think I have several rolls of undeveloped film in different places in my house. And it's kind of like, when you put on a pair of jeans that you haven't worn in a while, and you reach into the pocket and you find a $5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have $5. It doesn't matter whether it's $5 or $20 or $100. It always feels good to find some cash in your pocket that you weren't expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is sort of like the sensation of finding a roll of film. You're like, I wonder what's on this roll of film. And it's a crapshoot because sometimes there's nothing on it. Sometimes
I know.
you took one frame, it was crappy, and you decided to change your mind and you rolled it up and you were supposed to reuse it again, but you never did. And oh well. But I love those photos. The Alexia Foundation. We talked about the Alexia Foundation a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But break it down again for us because it's time for entries.
It is. It's time for entries, and they are introducing the 2014 Women's Initiative Grant, where they're going to give $25,000 to fund a project that produces a significant issue involving and affecting women. Doesn't necessarily have to be a woman photographer, but just documenting an issue that does affect women. 25
grand, that's a lot of cheddar.
It is. I'm actually unsure if this is the first time they've ever done the Women's Initiative Grant. Do you know? I know they have the Alexia Foundation. They have a lot of grants, but
yeah, I'm not sure. So the Alexia Foundation is run out of Syracuse. Photo editor extraordinaire Mike Davis is on the board. Alexia Grant was named after a student who died in a plane crash. And they created this, and they've given out some ludicrous amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it was, but maybe like $1 million in grants for photojournalism.
Yeah, all focused on photojournalism. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyone who's got a good story. I mean, the Vail story, whatever. Geez, apply for this grant.
Yeah, you've got till June 30th.
There's so many great grants. You know, we should do a show just talking about grants. There's so many great grants out there that I think people know like certain grants in their head, but there's so many. And I know that there are lists on the internet with people that have compiled different grants and the deadlines, etc. But we just got to highlight that stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we could do a roundup of grants.
You know, why worry about getting paid when you can just apply for a grant? It's true, though. I mean, that's how a lot of great photography is funded.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we thought that was going to wrap up the show today, but in fact, maybe 2 hours ago, Mike Campbell, who is in our client services group at PhotoShelter, who, by the way, co-wrote the song "Say Something," right? Which is just wacky.
It is wacky. He's very talented.
What's the name of that group?
Who sang the song?
Yeah, it's two nerdy dudes, and Christina Aguilera did a version with them with like the saddest video in the history of music videos.
Yes, yes.
So anyway, Mike Campbell works in client services, and he sends this project around and says, "Hey guys, follow my friend on Instagram." Now, whatever, yeah, follow your friend on Instagram, blah, 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 you know, and then so I click on the link. Because he wouldn't have, you know, the guy the guy wrote a hit song. Why would he pass around garbage? The guy knows what's up, right?
Yes, he does.
So his friend Nathan Ashker, who is at Nashker and Ashker, has been living and working in Hong Kong for a couple of years. And he says, it's time for me to come back to America. But instead of just taking a plane back, I've decided to not take a plane back and travel overland. Now, we've seen other projects like this. But you know what? I don't care who you are and what you do. This takes a lot of freaking commitment to do.
Yeah.
So the guy is traveling, and the reason why we're saying follow him is because this is a case of where Instagram works as a real-time publishing platform. You can follow this guy's trip overland through Asia. Presumably, I guess he's going to go through Europe as well.
Wow.
He's currently in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And I'm done with all the Malaysian airline jokes, so we're over that. Forget that. It's week 4. We haven't found anything. But anyway, he's in Malaysia right now, and he's taking photos, and they're good photos. I mean, I don't know how he's getting like aerial shots and stuff.
Yeah. Good question.
So
he already has 45,000 followers.
45,000 followers, man.
That's amazing.
You know, photographers. Do we even know what this guy does?
No.
I don't think he's not a full-time photographer. But it makes you sort of. It's always interesting to me because full-time professional photographers are always asking, what should I do for a project? How do I get to become viral?
Mm-hmm.
Or how do I get a lot of eyeballs to doing the stuff that I want? And I don't know, the guy apparently must be a good marketer because he's got 45,000 people following. That's not an insignificant number of followers. I think I have like 450. So he's got 100 times more than I do.
Yeah. Well, you just have to travel all the way across Asia, Alan. That's all it takes.
Somehow I don't think that would work for me personally, but yeah, I mean, I think finding a neat project and really doing it and committing to it. You know, I spoke at a marketing conference several years ago, and one of the guys I met there, who was a marketing consultant, freelance marketing consultant, Luke Micey, he emails me a month ago, and he's like, "Hey, I quit my job. I'm gonna bike across the U.S. To raise money for a charity." And he just got totally into this charity, and now he's doing it. So there's something about like the cross-country journey, about finding yourself, and then, you know, taking photos or doing whatever. I mean, go west, young man. Go west.
Yeah, people eat that up. It's great.
People love that. So check that out. All of these links are on our blog at blog.photoshelter.com. Again, if you're listening to the audio podcast, you can watch the video version of this and see some of the images that we talked about at youtube.com/photoshelter. Sarah, we're here every Friday.
We are.
I love photography. I should also mention that we created our first Vine account.
Yes, we did. We're getting
You can
into the
follow us
Vine.
on Vine. And our name is PhotoShelter on Vine. That's easy to remember. And we posted our first Vine video yesterday. So check it out. We're trying it out.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps it up. You know, it's finally spring here in New York City. We had our warmest day ever this year. 67 degrees yesterday. It was the most glorious day. But today's a little rainy, but that's okay. Spring is coming, and there'll be a lot of great I Love Photography and a lot of photographs and a lot more of Sarah Jacobs and Alan Murabayashi. So thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next week. Take care.